As of June 11, 2024, Cecot had a confirmed population of 14,532 inmates. In November 2024, prison director Bellarmino Garcia estimated that Cecot held between 15,000 and 20,000 inmates. With a capacity for 40,000 inmates, Cecot is the largest prison in Latin America and one of the largest in the world by prisoner capacity. In March 2025, the Salvadoran government accepted over 200 deportees that the second Donald Trump administration alleged were Venezuelan and Salvadoran gang members and incarcerated them in Cecot. Among them was Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whose case received widespread media attention in the United States. Cecot is controversial, receiving praise for its detention of alleged gang members and criticism for alleged human rights abuses, including overcrowding, lack of due process, and inhumane conditions. Cecot does not engage in rehabilitation. No prisoner has ever been confirmed to have been released from the facility, and authorities have stated there are no plans to release any prisoners. Additionally, the imprisonment of deportees from the U.S. is a controversial issue on its own. 2024 Ecuadorian gangs enforced their influence and made money through murder, extortion, drug trafficking, and operating businesses. Gangs also influenced national politics by preventing political candidates from campaigning in certain neighborhoods under their control, and gang leaders have stated that they could determine the outcomes of elections. Due to gang violence, El Salvador had one of the highest homicide rates in the world, peaking at a rate of 103 homicides per 100,000 people in 2015, the highest rate in the world at that time. From 2019 to 2020, El Salvador's homicide rate decreased by up to 62%. Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele credited the decrease to his territorial control plan, but a 2020 analysis by the International Crisis Group, ICG, found no causal relationship between the decrease in homicides and the territorial control plan. Instead, the ICG attributed the decrease to quiet, informal understandings between gangs and the government. The Salvadoran government denied the claim. In December 2021, the United States Department of the Treasury accused Bukele's government of negotiating with the gangs to reduce homicides. Bukele denied the accusation. The Terrorism Confinement Center facility covers 23 hectares, 57 acres, and the Salvadoran government oversees the surrounding 140 hectares, 350 acres, around the prison. It is located in the district of Tecoluca, in a remote area of the San Vicente department at the base of the San Vicente volcano. Cecot has the capacity for 40,000 inmates in 8 cell blocks. Cell space covers 6 acres, 2.4 hectares, for an average of 0.6 square meters, 6.5 square feet, of space per prisoner. 17. In April 2025, Bukele stated that he intended to double Cecot's capacity to 80,000 inmates. 18. The prison is surrounded by 19 guard towers. 17. 2 sets of 9-meter tall, 30 feet, and 60 centimeter thick, 24-in walls, topped with barbed wire, 2 sets of electrified fences, and gravel flooring designed to make footsteps audible. Juanita Goabertis, the director of the Americas division of the advocacy group Human Rights Watch, told ABC News that detainees in Cecot, as well as other prisons in El Salvador, are denied communication with their relatives and lawyers, and only make court appearances and online hearings, often in groups of several hundred detainees at the same time. The Salvadoran government has described people held in Cecot as terrorists and has said that they will never leave, Goabertis said, adding that the Human Rights Watch is not aware of any detainees who have ever been released from Cecot. According to human rights advocates and immigration attorneys, Cecot prisoners only leave their cell for 30 minutes a day and sleep on metal beds in overcrowded cells. For years, Amnesty International has published reports on detention centers and prisons in El Salvador and has alleged systematic abuse of detainees and patterns of grave human rights violations. Those findings were acknowledged in a 2023 human rights report published by the U.S. Department of State that said there have been significant human rights issues in Salvadoran prisons. Ana Piquer, the Americas director at Amnesty International, called the detainment in El Salvador of the Venezuelan migrants a disregard of the U.S. human rights obligations. Amnesty International has extensively documented the inhumane conditions within detention centers in El Salvador, including the Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, Cecot, where those removed are now being held, Piquer said in a statement. Reports indicate extreme overcrowding, lack of access to adequate medical care, and widespread ill treatment amounting to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. Cecot was built after President Bukele declared war on the gangs that had terrorized El Salvador for decades and led to its reputation as the murder capital of the world. In slickly choreographed promotional videos, prisoners scuttle into Cecot, shackled and bent over between two rows of guards. Prison administrators have promoted the high-security prison as key to winning the war against the gangs. Sprawled over 23 hectares, Cecot consists of 8 concrete buildings, each containing 32 cells. Each cell, designed to hold more than 100 inmates each, has 84-story metal bunks without bedding and 2 toilets and sinks with no privacy. Mesh ceilings allow guards to patrol the cells from above. According to an analysis by the Financial Times using satellite imagery, if the prison were to reach its 40,000 person capacity, detainees would have just 0.6 square meters of cell space each. That's less space than the 1 hen per square meter rule Australian poultry farmers must adhere to for free-range accreditation. El Salvador is now believed to have the highest incarceration rate in the world. Recent data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics showed the Northern Territory is second. Bullock argued the prisoners held in Cecot, many inked with fearsome gang tattoos, have likely been in prison since well before the state of exception began, because Salvadoran gangs abandoned the practice of face tattooing years ago. Bullock warned against fixating on Cecot, as people imprisoned under the state of exception without warrants are likely held in other Salvadoran prisons. El Salvador's vice president has admitted that arrests of innocent people had occurred. In any war, there are innocent victims and collateral damage. And Bukele has said 8,000 people wrongly imprisoned in Salvadoran prisons have been released. Multiple human rights organizations say they have documented deaths in Salvadoran prisons in recent years. Juanita Goabertis, director of the Americas Division of Human Rights Watch, said recently in a legal declaration on prison conditions in El Salvador that people held in Cecot were denied due process. They are denied communication with their relatives and lawyers and only appear before courts in online hearings, often in groups of several hundred detainees at the same time. She said Human Rights Watch was not aware of anyone being released from Cecot. Goabertis said Human Rights Watch had documented cases of torture, mistreatment, inhumane conditions in other Salvadoran prisons, including lack of access to adequate health care and food, and she believed the mistreatment of detainees at Cecot to be similar. The Salvadoran government denied human rights groups access to its prisons, Goabertis said, and had only allowed journalists and social media influencers to visit Cecot under highly controlled circumstances. The Trump administration deported 261 people to El Salvador on March 15th. For 137 of them, the U.S. government justified the move under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, saying the men were members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, but providing few details about their cases. A U.S. official said in a court filing that many of those 137 has no U.S. convictions, but still posed a serious threat. Those people, along with 101 additional Venezuelans, were sent to Cecot for a 1-year term that can be renewed, Bukele said. The U.S. government paid El Salvador about $6 million to receive the deportees.